Matt Miguez has plenty on his mind, and he's ready to share it with the world. It's time to hear the Miguez Mindset.
Welcome into another edition of the Miguez Mindset, brought to you each and every week by Marucci, Hitter's House here in Lafayette. Matt Miguez here and talking to SEC Media Days. We're in day 2 currently of SEC Media Days. LSU kicked it off on Monday over at the Omni Hotel in Dallas. But that's kind of become the tradition, kicking it off on Monday with the Bayou Bengals. Brian Kelly had a lot to say. Players had a lot to say. We're going to talk about a little bit of all of it. And Nick Saban getting shunned at the door, apparently. Preston Guy of TigerBait.com joins us here. Preston, good afternoon, my man. How are you?
Matt, what's going on, man?
So before we dive into the media day, let's have some fun conversation. EA Sports College Football 25 has been out for, by the time we're recording this, right at 24 hours.
Yep.
And how many hours would you say that you have spent playing it?
You know, I had to tell Mike Scarborough, yo, buddy, I'm taking a day of PTO. We're taking some 24 hours off here. I've been waiting 11 years for this. 6 hours. I would say. No, I streamed 6 hours yesterday. I streamed 2 hours this morning. So maybe
8 hours,
maybe 9,
Yeah.
10.
Okay, so a third of your time has been on this game.
Like,
those
what
are
else? What else?
those
would
are
I be
rookie
doing?
numbers. Those are rookie
Well,
numbers.
the game, well,
numbers up.
probably more than that because the game has been out. It came out 3:00 yesterday, and it's about okay. So 23. It's probably more than 1/3. Probably a good,
Rookie numbers. We got to bump that up.
3/5 maybe. Yeah.
That's it's more than we could have ever wanted, right?
My waking hours, it's basically all of them. If
Right.
we're excluding the sleep hours, I mean,
Right.
What a waste of time sleeping.
Yeah, sleeping you're dead.
But my first game went really well.
Okay, there it is. There's the subtle jab.
Let the people know. Let the people know.
He beat me 43-12.
43-12. That's right.
He was LSU. I was UL playing in Tiger Stadium. Started off really good for me. I had a 12-7 lead at halftime, but then
12-0 lead to start off the game. Actually,
Preston made some really good halftime adjustments, and I did not.
It got ugly,
and it got real ugly really quickly. So kudos to you, my friend, or GG as the kids say. So, all right, let's talk some SEC Media Days. I just want to get your overall thoughts on kind of what Brian Kelly had to say, because from my point of view, I feel like this was the most confident he sounded since arriving at LSU at an SEC Media Days. Would you agree with that?
I'll say confident. There was things he said like this is the deepest LSU team he's had. He said his culture's installed, right?
Yeah.
But it is a funny predicament because he also had to be this press conference. Ultimately, last year is the ultimate success and ultimate failure all lumped together. Now it was averaged out to a failed season at LSU. It was or disappointment. We'll not call it failed. We'll say disappointment, right? Because ultimately you didn't make the playoffs and you weren't a contender last year. But offensively, I mean, he hit a grand slam last year. That was one of the best offenses in SEC history. But defensively, you went about the opposite direction. So it's like basically taking the stand with an 0-12 defense and a 12-0 offense is the way I likened it to. And he had some very candid quotes, like saying, we had the number 1 offense in the country last year. It wasn't good enough. I know we have to be better. And that's, the whole thing. But, it is a funny situation because it is year 3 of Brian Kelly. And you think year 3, well, okay, you finally rebuilt, got all your people in place. And in certain ways, yes, like offensive line, yes, they finally got that sucker rebuilt, but they're losing 3 first-round picks on offense. And the defense is completely retooled from the coaching staff.
Right.
So there's a lot that they're rebuilding and changing in this team. But yes, I got a quiet confidence out of him for sure.
Yeah, and talking about the quotes, one thing that really stood out to me was when he talked about how the team has to be better. He said, "We won 10 games and I fired my entire defensive staff."
Yeah, that's another one that stood out to me.
Like, that's crazy to think about, but the defense was so horrendously bad that Brian Kelly really had no choice but to fire the entire defensive staff. He brings in Blake Baker from Missouri, who helped lead one of the best defenses in the country last season. to be the new defensive coordinator. How big of a get was that? What was kind of, what's kind of the vibe you're getting from the defensive standpoint for LSU?
Yeah, look, Matt, I hear it, and on paper, you would think they'd be tremendously improved, but until I see it, I can't really say it's happening. I mean, I in spring ball, we did not see it. Nussmeier tore that defense to shreds. The only time they did look good was when Nussmeier didn't get in the game for the spring game. I think he took 7 passes, completed all of them for like
Yep.
165 yards. I mean, dude, if I could pass that well in EA college football, woo, man, I might get the Brune status if I if
Hey,
I pass
oh,
that well. But once he came out, the defense did kind of come back down to earth. They only let one score happen, and that was at the very end in garbage time from the backup, the four stringer, Colin Hurley, the true freshman, hit Kai Preen on a deep route. Now Kai Preen's at Tulane now. He
yep.
transferred out right after that. So there is some hope, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is going to be a good defense until I see it. I have to see it. On paper, things sound better. And I might go out on a limb and say you can expect a top 60 defense this year. Yeah, I could see that, but I don't see anything top 25 yet. I'm not saying there won't be.
Fair.
Let's clarify on that.
Fair enough. Another big storyline is obviously Garrett Nussmeier taking over the reins of this offense,
Yeah.
filling in for Jaden Daniels. Nussmeier has been at SEC Media Days in Dallas with Brian Kelly. That there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of keep things moving, right? And this is the first real starting experience that he's had. He started in the bowl game this past season and looked really good doing it, but now it's going to be a whole different beast. Texas and Oklahoma come into the SEC. You open up under the bright lights of Las Vegas against USC. There's a lot of pressure on Garrett Nussmeier. How well do you think he's handling it from what you've seen?
He's calm, cool, and collected. Everything about Nussmeier from the day Jaden Daniels announced, I'm skipping out on the bowl game. I'm going pro. He's been A plus, and it's funny. It's like usually breaking in a new starter at quarterback is a huge deal and a huge question mark, and it just seems like it feels like he's not even a question mark. I mean, you throw for 395 in a bowl game, and you do what he's done in the spring game and in practice, and he's been around as long as he has. You feel really good about Garrett Nussmeier. There's a handful of things like maybe you'd like to see him be a little less aggressive downfield, but that's more of based on his history at LSU throughout the
Correct.
years. That's not really what we saw last year. We saw a much improved quarterback, and we've seen a much improved quarterback in spring. And I think a lot of people are expecting that only to get better this fall. So I would anticipate a big fall for Garrett Nussmeier. Now he's got 2 years before of eligibility left. I am personally expecting this to be his last year at LSU. I think he's going to play well enough to get drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Yesterday, Brian Kelly talked about his receiving core, which, you lost two key pieces in that group with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But Brian Kelly doesn't seem to be too concerned, saying that there's 6 to 8 receivers in his room that
Yeah.
can catch the football for him. Kyron Lacey appears to be the leader of this group. But what's interesting is you look at his career, he's never stepped up to be the guy at LSU. Also, that's due to he didn't really need to. And then his 2 years previous at Louisiana never really stepped up there either. So I guess the question is, what has Kyron Lacey shown, at least from your perspective, in the offseason to where people are
Well,
saying he could be the guy?
well, for one, not having Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors sitting in front of you, that's pretty helpful, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I'd say mostly it comes down to he needed to be polished when he got to LSU. He caught a lot of touchdowns at ULL, but like he wasn't the go-to guy there, like you were saying, right? And he needed to work on his catching. He was unreliable catching the ball, and we saw that at LSU. And in fact, even last season, we've seen a lot of that where it really felt like every fourth pass you're looking to him, he was going to give you a drive killing drop, and those are the kind of things you have to work on if you're going to be the guy.
Yep.
It really looks like he's cleaning that up, and he definitely has a chance. But here's the deal: he has very little wiggle room. If you're giving me, if every fourth catch is a drive killing drop, there's guys behind you now. You got Xavier Thomas, the transfer from Mississippi State, who put up pretty good numbers, although he's more of a specialist returner at Mississippi State last year. He did also put up right under 700 yards of offense in an offense that wasn't moving the ball well. So do not overlook Xavier Thomas. You've got Chris Hilton, who's a real speedster. And by the way, a lot of chemistry with Garrett
Yep.
Nussmeier. So keep an eye out on him. I mean, all over the place. You've got guys. Kyle Parker is a guy who coaches are really high on. I mean,
TJ
Jelani
Daniels.
Watkins. Yeah, the transfer from Liberty. We didn't even talk about him. He was a 1,000-yard receiver. Did you know that he was? I think he was one of 2 players to enter the transfer portal with 1,000 yards or
Yep.
more from scrimmage. Which, by the way, we talk about everyone entering the transfer portal.
Only
It seems
2.
like right, exactly. It seems like only the ones who aren't putting up monster numbers are the ones entering the transfer portal, if that's anywhere near true. So yeah, he's a guy who could easily come out and be your number one. And look, I'll throw a wrinkle out there. Brian Kelly talked a lot about Jelani Watkins, who is a track star out of
Yeah.
Texas. He ran a 10-2 200-meter dash. They're expecting him to be one of the fastest players in the country. Now, as we saw with guys like Trendon Holiday years back, being the fastest player in the country doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be guaranteed every down player, but I'm telling you that there will be a spot in this offense. Maybe
Certainly.
they'll use him like they've been trying to use Aaron Anderson the last couple of years in those little bubble screen type passes, and they'll focus on Aaron Anderson being a downfield threat. That's another guy we're talking about. So
Yep.
basically, LSU doesn't have any receivers who you're sure are going to be a Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas again. You're not certain of that, but
Right.
but you got a lot of guys, a large volume of guys who you feel pretty good about. We've named a bunch of them, and odds are we probably missed one. There's probably a few more
Certainly.
that are actually
Certainly.
Shelton Sampson, 5-star guy out of Catholic High, 6'5", big bodied guy. Is this the year he turns the corner and can be one of the top 3 receivers? There's lots of guys who could be that because they've all flashed hints of brilliance. But
For sure.
no, I don't think it is Kyron Lacey's job for sure. I think Kyron Lacey's going to have to go out there and earn it, and really earn it every game.
Preston, the thing that baffles me looking at the defense is the fact that for the second straight year, Harold Perkins appears like he's going to line up as an
Yeah.
inside backer. Why?
Because he's too damn talented to be a utility weapon. That's the ultimate answer. Now they made a big deal about his weight gain. He was listed last year at 217. He's 222
Yeah.
now. So Brian Kelly's saying if I could do one thing different, make him eat more. I don't. I think if he shows a massive leap in improvement, I think that's coaching from Blake Baker, who we've seen turn linebackers into prodigies before, right? But I don't think it's because he put on 8 pounds of muscle. I that's just something you don't hear very often. But here's the deal: if you look in the NFL, how many pass rushing specialists are 6'2", 220 pounds? The answer is none of them. And LSU, as you know, when you're playing in the SEC, that's one step away removed from the NFL. You gotta have guys who have that potential. I think his future is linebacker. I think if you're using him as a pass rush specialist, number one, that's not what he's best served as. Number two, he's too darn talented to be used as just that. He needs to be an every down linebacker. I do believe he's one of the most talented players in the country, but I think that his future is at that position. I think a lot of people just remember that Arkansas game where he was unblockable in the edge. I think he had 5 sacks. And he basically willed his team to victory on a day where Jaden Daniels in the offense had a really off day. I mean, they looked really out of sync, and that defense really stepped up big, and then they just wanted more of that. And it's like, well, that worked for that day because he was a true freshman and they wanted to get him on the field. But is that really his future? Is that really where he's best served? I like keeping him at linebacker, whether he plays outside linebacker and does some stuff out there, middle linebacker. I don't really care. I don't think his future is jack linebacker, just getting his hand in the dirt, going after the quarterback.
Fair enough. I just, you see a guy like Micah Parsons lighting the NFL on fire. And yeah, Michael Parsons is listed at 6'3", 245. So there
Yeah.
is a little bit of a size difference there for sure. But I look at Harold Perkins and I say he could do that. He could be that
Yeah.
guy.
I hate to tell you that extra inch or
Oh,
two,
that
which
20 pounds
probably,
makes a difference.
and
And the
also
inch.
I bet you the arm length is going to make a difference. The thing is, Harold Perkins can do some blitzing and pass rushing, but he's not a true blue edge rusher type player. He does not have the measurables of that. So I think that, I hear the Micah Parsons comp, but you do have to understand there is a substantial size difference there.
For sure. For sure. Preston, as we wrap up, we're roughly 6 weeks away from the start of the season, 2.5 weeks away from them reporting for fall camp. What are some questions that you're hoping to get answered early in fall camp as the season is, right around the corner?
Yeah, definitely first things first, I'm going to that defense. Can the defensive line get pressure? I think your linebacking core, I feel really good about it. I think most people think it's the strength of this defense, and that's a good strength to have. But up front, if you don't get a push and uh, they're not hogging blocks at least, holding up blocks, I should say, and they're getting to that second level with their blocks, that's going to be real bad for this defense. That defensive line played incompetently disciplined last year. There's no outside contain, there was no pass rush. It was just horrendous to watch. So front seven, definitely going to be keeping an eye at those DBs. They have to improve dramatically because they got absolutely torched. But what do you do to help a struggling defensive backfield? You get some pressure.
Yep.
And those things go hand in hand. And your linebackers can be great all you want, as long as if you're not getting any pass rush and you're not covering the ball at all, they don't matter. That's the real problem. The linebackers oftentimes are a result of other things performing well. They're just kind of there to vacuum up what's left. Is a lot of times
Yeah.
how it works on defense. So you really got to get those guys going. And honestly, the next biggest question is so far down the totem pole. Once you look at those two groups, it's like, well, I guess I want to see the running back rotation a little bit.
Right.
I want to see how they run the ball now that they don't have Jaden Daniels.
Well,
I have zero questions on the offensive line. Maybe the receiver rotation as well. That'll be interesting, but not really. Who's going to return punts? Oh yeah, it's Xavier Thomas. We're kind of pretending we don't know who's going to
right.
be. Let's put it like, if it's not Xavier Thomas, something has gone wrong. That's not a good sign. You certainly don't want to walk back there and have another walk on catch returning
No.
punts because you don't trust anybody. You need a more dynamic returner back there, and that's why you bring him in. So yeah, defense, and defense. That's I can't wait to get to fall camp and look at the team and see how that's going, because that's the key to this year. I really do believe this offense is going to be good. I really believe it. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, but they should
They're
be
going to
about
be
a
good.
top 20, top 15 offense.
Yeah.
That defense could screw your season again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Preston Guy of TigerBait.com joining us here on the Miguez Mindset, brought to you by Marucci Hitter's House of Lafayette. Preston, before you go, man, tell our viewers where they can find your work.
Look, guys, y'all can follow me on Twitter at PGuy77. I put a variety of things on there. You can also follow my podcast, which will be starting up this football season again. We go during football season on Mondays. I don't bore y'all to death with an off-season football podcast. We go August 1st through the end of January every year. You can follow me at the TigerBait YouTube channel and keep up with my work. And also TigerBait.com. We have paid and free content there. You can go give it a try for $1, or you can just go there and check out all the free content.
You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESPN Southwest Louisiana. Follow us on social media at ESPN_SWLA. We're back next week to get you set for the Olympics and so much more here on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette, 101 Charles.